going to actually start now that I've recorded or am recording. So we're going to take a look at AI. Everybody knows how much you want to use it for cheating, right? No. Okay. So have you read your syllabi and you notice that there's a statement? Do any of you have a statement in a syllabus that says that you are allowed to use AI at this point? Okay. We're going in here kind of slowly, aren't we, with using it? And I don't blame the professors. What I'd like to be able to focus on is what can you use it for? How can you use it to be more effective, save some time, etc. So we'll go ahead. This is, as I said, being recorded. And there are lots of hyperlinks in here. I'm happy to share the PowerPoint also with you as a PDF. So if you want to go into the links, and also there's a Google Doc at the end that I'm going to keep on updating that has a lot of links to all kinds of different things, and I have them by category. Okay, so just a basic history. When did we first come up with AI or GPT? Back in 1943, a few years before my time, is the first that we hear about it. Probably some of you have heard of Alan Turing. 1956, the Dartmouth Conference is something that's always talked about as the birth of AI as a field of study. You may hear about ELIZA in 1965. 1987, IBM's Deep Blue. This was a huge thing to defeat a chess champion. It actually defeated a person who was amazing in their own right. Anybody have a Roomba vacuum cleaner? Yeah. So iRobot came out with that in 2002. IBM's Watson, I remember listening when they were first coming out with that, and they had ads all over TV, defeated 2 former Jeopardy champions. I don't think it got any extra money for it. I hope it didn't. I'd rather that people get money instead. Facebook, facial recognition system in 2014, and then Google acquired DeepMind for $500 million the same year. OpenAI released ChatGPT 3 in 2020. This is a huge thing too. 2021, DeepMind's AlphaFold 2 started making a pathway for medicine and drugs to be using AI. So this again was yet another hurdle that it went over. And then, oh, thank you. OpenAI also came out with ChatGPT 4, and that was refined for more of the text and the image features. There's a wonderful infographic right here. I happen to like infographics, and so you'll be able to click and go to that, and there are other dates. There are definitions for these items that I have in italics, etc. So how does ChatGPT work? And I'm just going to go glossing over the basics because I have some tutorials that are going to be listed in the Google Doc if you want to go in, study further, and really understand everything. But you've got this beginner's guide with simple explanations. Again, this is a hyperlink. It's a generative pre-trained transformer. That's where we get the GPT. So it's a natural language, meaning talking like you and I talk, processing chatbot, and it's powered by GPT family of large language models. And so you'll hear this LLM very often when you're talking about artificial intelligence and ChatGPT and its related cousins. And so they use deep learning techniques, they use algorithms to be able to understand what we're saying, because they can not only do things from us typing information in, but also using voice, which is interesting. The GPT is trained on huge amounts of text data. And because of that, it only goes up to a certain point in time until they load in additional information. And so that's one of the things for you to consider. If you're looking for the most recent, the most current information, chances are it is not loaded in there. ChatGPT itself is owned by OpenAI. And I thought it was interesting that Microsoft invested $13 billion. Remember, we heard about Google getting something for 500 million. This is 13 billion since 2019. There are other alternatives. Who's used Gemini? Anybody use Gemini? Anybody use Claude? Anybody use Copilot? Anybody use Perplexity? What else am I missing? What ones are you all using? What AI are you? ChatGPT, okay. Everybody else is ChatGPT? Okay, good. So, and you're just going to keep on hearing about more and more bits and pieces here. Now, what's really neat is you can have custom models that are built for specific tasks. And ChatGPT at their main site has something called Explore GPTs. And hopefully we'll have time, we can go in and look at that. But that's just a treasure trove of useful and useless information, a combination of the two. The biggest thing to keep in mind about all of this is that it is a tool. It is imperfect. It's constantly being upgraded. And just like anything else that we know that's in a commercial forum, we've got everybody going back and forth. I'm trying to get this feature. I'm trying to get this feature. I'm trying to catch up with you. I'm trying to do one better. So it's constantly being upgraded, updated. You have to remember, you have to monitor what you see with it. And you have to review what the output is for accuracy. And that's super important. We'll go into that a little bit more too. If there are questions at any time, go ahead and let me know. Any questions now? Okay, good. Like I said, that was just going to be very basic. One of the big problems that people see in using ChatGPT are the ethics. This is a really nice article. Infographic. Bias. Who trained this? What information was fed in? What was their viewpoint on things? So it's subject to bias. Security. How secure is it? Can it be hacked? Deception. Has anybody ever heard about a hallucination? Yeah, and so we know that everything that ChatGPT or similar, I'll just use ChatGPT, but know that I'm talking about the whole raft there, that you can have hallucinations. That means that it just kind of makes up information out of the air and pretends that it is correct. It's pulling information and trying to put it together, make sense of it, and that's how you get the hallucinations. There can be malice involved. Right now, it is not tightly regulated. And so that's a really big cause for concern. You'll see US will be regulated differently than Europe, et cetera. So it's not just one great big worldwide regulation that you're going to be seeing. It could be very politically motivated. And it could be used in politics to try to sway or try to give false information. We've all heard in the past 8 to 10 years, disinformation, misinformation, et cetera. And we know that that is used oftentimes politically. And then this FOMO. And I'm like, what was that? And I had to look that one up and I'm like, oh yeah, fear of missing out. And this is where people, instead of settling down and really doing things in a nice, calm way, they're fighting. I better do this first. I may miss out. And so that fear of missing out, I want to be the first one there, can also be a ethical problem. I'm sorry, this every time I go to change a slide, it doesn't like to change. One of the other things is there are haves and have-nots. Not all persons, communities, countries, institutions have equal access to learning about or using AI, ChatGPT, and that creates a real problem. I work with editing a journal, and we get people writing from Nigeria and other places in Africa, and their reality is so different, and what they expect from their internet provider and what they get is so vastly different than what we have, and the same applies to AI and GPT for them. One of the biggest problems is that AI needs to be thought carefully through for using it ethically and equitably, so that we don't have all the have-nots. I mentioned that AI generated content may not be accurate. It can reflect bias, etc. So therefore you have to review and critically assess it before using it. If you are using it for a class, for anything in life, but especially a class, I know that's where you all are probably at right now, you have to make sure that you remember you are responsible for the final output. You are the one who gets the grade. And one example that we have here as librarians is we see students who will go to find a journal article and it says cite or citation next to it, and they'll click on it for APA or Chicago or MLA, and it may not always be accurate. And if they just take what they found that the computer had generated, they may end up with a lower grade than what they wanted because they did not take the time to double check. So always check citations, but always check any output you get from AI. And remember, it's a tool. The other thing is, don't put sensitive or confidential information into AI tools. We're at the point right now where people are not completely aware, or nor would they have a way to be aware in sometimes of what GPT is taking that they put in and keeping and working off of. And so you have to be aware that your information that you put in there might be used to help train that AI tool. So therefore, refrain from putting sensitive or confidential information into that. Another drawback is, I mentioned the syllabi, and academic integrity is always going to be important. FAU has its own academic code of academic integrity. If you see, especially section 2B, points number 1 and 2, they were recently in 2024 updated. And so that spells out what is considered cheating, what use of AI would be considered not allowed. Again, always check your syllabus for each class to see if AI is allowed and to what extent it might be allowed. So the question is anybody keeping tabs on AI and ChatGPT? Well, the good news is that there is, at Stanford University, human-centered artificial intelligence. They have, it's been, I think, close to 10 years now that they have issued an annual report, and they look at the trends in AI. And so the 2024 report has top takeaways. The report itself is, I think, 75, 95 pages, something like that. You're also going to find that articles will be published. Oftentimes has anybody heard of a systematic review? Systematic review? Okay, so a systematic review is going to take a look at what's been written on a particular topic, and it's going to be very particular about the criteria that the article has to fit in order for it all to be compared. And so you're going to see more and more systematic studies and evaluation of AI and ChatGPT. Some of these that I found are in physics, engineering, professional education, where you're having to get a certification, medicine, clinical psychology, a whole lot of other areas. And so these are going to be able to help us keep tabs on what's out there and what people are doing using AI and ChatGPT in these areas. You can also find comparisons And oftentimes these are by commercial companies for the different types of GPT. So ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, Gemini, Breeze AI, all of those. And they're going to evaluate how good they are at doing math, or how good they are at doing writing, or how good they are at summarizing, etc. FAU has wonderful resources to help you find information. And this is going to take you directly to the library. And you could go directly in our library website. I'm not going to be able to get in there, am I? And right front and center is the one search, and you can do searches in there very easily. So you can put it in right here. This is your default search, and you can put information in here. This will search for articles, books, streaming videos, almost everything that we have. Although some databases do not play nicely and we can't search them at the same time. Okay, now how do I get back to the minimizer? I'm so glad you're here, Patricia. Okay. Artificial intelligence at FAU. This is one of the most important slides for you. Did you know that FAU has information about AI? Yes, no, yes. Raise your hand. No, raise your hand. Okay, FAU has information. There's one site made it really easy for you called AI at FAU. There's a glossary of terms. You'll hear terms thrown around, and it's important to be able to start to understand what they're talking about. There are different tools that you can use, and a lot of these are evaluated, and they'll let you know also what tools might be useful for you to use. Let me see if I can do this again, Patricia. So the AI assisted tools, you can search for tools, and what they're doing is they're letting you know data classification. Remember I said you have to be careful about sensitive information, and they have listed things and tried things, keeping up with things to be able to verify what type of tool you can or cannot use and what you should expect as far as the sensitivity to your information. They also have a separate section here for the data classifications, but you'll see a lot of these different AI tools. They may not be totally AI, but they may have a component or a main component that is AI. Notice this says free for FAU. And so this is why FAU loves for you to be able to use this, because this helps keep you secure. You'll see other ones which will say free, and they also have a premium option. Other ones that are listed as paid only. FAU does use Grammarly, or does have Grammarly. Lots of other ones that are listed here. There's also some training that's available. One specifically for student resources. Make sure if you use AI that you're always, any component of it, that you're always citing it correctly. There's some self-guided training. There are other programs and courses for you. Goes into the syllabus statement, etc. And then there are also, basic university resources. So what is ChatGPT used for? A lot of these different things, and I'm going to let you just kind of look through them yourself. We'll be going through a lot of these with some hyperlinks. If you're in computers, it's going to help you with coding. It helps with summarizing. Even tools like Zoom now have AI where they will transcribe what you are saying, and then they'll also summarize it for you. Teams will do that too, I believe. So there are lots of things that are available. There's proofreading, but not fact checking. Just keep that in mind. They will generate all kinds of content, both written, images, etc. So there are several parts to a prompt, and a prompt is what you use to create something using this, this particular program. So a prompt is where you're going to tell ChatGPT what it is you would like for it to do. And so you're going to tell it what role it's going to have. You're a university professor of anthropology. You are a 9th grade student. You're going to set that context. So you've got the persona. You've also got the aim. So you're going to say, what is the objective? What is it that you want for it to do? And they say that typically if you use a verb, that's and use the sentence starting with a verb, create this, describe this, summarize this. These are going to be good ways to start. And then you enter the context for that task. Indicate who the intended audience is. So if I say you being ChatGPT, are a college professor, and then I need to indicate the intended audience is going to be a class of undergraduates. So things like that. You want to be able to describe the style, the tone, any other related parameters. You only want 3 items that they would give back to you. You want a list of 20 items. How should they give you the output? Do you want for them, if you're saying create an email, you want it to be professional, you want it to be informal? Do you want things to be only a certain number of words or a certain number of paragraphs? And so this is where you're going to be able to describe that output. And another thing is the structure for the output. Sometimes you want to have it in a particular format, bullet points, a chart, Q&A, quizzes, graphs, codes, and you can also give it an example. So say, and for the output, show a chart in this order, in this format. You can also tell it to do that and then say, and I will give you the information to put in it in a minute. And then you can go ahead and do things in multiple parts. It's not just one time sitting down with that prompt. So this is one of the easiest ones to be able to look at. This is part of, from Google, their generative AI for educators. And I have a link for that also if you're interested. They say that's a 2-hour course. One of the things that I did for a class that I took was I created a prompt library. A prompt library was copying prompts that I had made, that I had used, and or components, like if I wanted to use the same persona all the time, then it was easy for me to just grab that instead of, and put it in a prompt instead of having to recreate it. You can easily use Excel or Google Sheets to create your library. A benefit of using the spreadsheet is that it can help you sort and find information easily. You can find, copy, use, modify prompts from online resources. You'll see there are a lot of cheat sheets out there. So this can help you start your prompt library. It's recommended highly that you update your library as you use GPT. We know that GPT is changing. We know that your prompts, and as you start using prompts, making prompts, receiving the output, those are probably going to change too, because you're going to learn how to be more effective. You can also create other sheets. So, you know, you've got the first tab that opens, and at the bottom of the spreadsheet are sheets. You can do that to keep your prompts organized. And then I've got a suggested format, one that I've used. This used type, use case, prompt, and note. So the type was just the brief description. Was it a list, a summary, an email? The use case was a little bit more in depth. What was it used for? Find information on programs or on websites. I was trying to use Perplexity, and I'm like, how do I use it? So if you see the prompt in there, the bottom one says, Find information in programs or on websites. We'll look in the help section of Perplexity to learn how to use and add threads to collections. I didn't know how to do it. I thought, Perplexity, you should know how to do this since I'm using you. So this is great. You could do the number 2, using Microsoft Word. If I need to undo things that I've typed, is it possible to see what was typed and when? In other words, does it provide a history similar to Google Docs? So I was able to find that information. I wanted to do a thank you to somebody that was our committee chair and thought that would be nice. I didn't want it formal. I wanted it very short, just a few sentences, and I was able to get exactly what I needed. So with the prompt, you're going to state the prompt that you're going to use in your library, put in square brackets wherever you're going to be adding detailed information, specific information for that use. And then remember to put your output that you want, do the persona, aim, recipients, theme, structure. This note section helped me be able to go ahead and say, okay, this is how I want to structure things. Made it really easy to go back and do this. So one of the problems that we have is a lot of us are looking for instant gratification. But when you're in university, what we want for you to learn is critical thinking. So is it possible to get that instant gratification from using ChatGPT for information, for assistance, or can we do critical thinking? This is a nice quote, and the question is at the bottom, how do we increase critical thinking while also embracing what ChatGPT can do? So here are a couple things, like talking with a colleague. It can be an interactive partner that's useful in areas you know a lot about already, so you can critically evaluate the suggestion without blindly copying it. Use it to kind of see how much you know about a topic. Compare the GPT-generated text with human-generated text. This is really neat too. I thought a really good essay is not just a synthesis of information, but also the ability to support a thesis. So it's not just gathering it, but it's being able to put it together, how to defend information that you're putting together. Again, I've put information down here so you can read that particular article. So let's get into it a little bit more. Questions you might ask, say you want to find a job. Notice there's a progression to these prompts. You're not just going to do one prompt and be done. So indicate, I'm a senior computer science major, that's my persona, and I'll graduate next spring. How can I find a job and be a good research assistant? Okay, so I'm setting some basic information here. Then I would get a response. And then my next question might be, how would I find a job as a research assistant? And my next question to it after I get that answer might be, are there RA positions within companies or universities, or where would I find a job? So I'm getting it to know me a little bit more. I might fill in some of the blanks about myself by saying, here's my current resume. Now, remember, we talked about sensitive or personal information, confidential information. So you want to be careful about that. But if I felt comfortable, I had a very basic resume, give me better descriptions of my prior work and education towards finding an RA position. In other words, is my resume selling me with the information that I know, or do I need to be putting it in a different context, different format? And then how could I find someone to give me an informational interview? I want to sit down with somebody. How could I find somebody like that? I don't know. Ask it some difficult questions, see what you get. So these are all hyperlinked for you. Things like looking up vocabulary words and take those notes so you don't have to do it again. This is in place of a dictionary. How to take stains out of laundry. Any college students ever have to figure that out? Yes. You're getting ready to do a job interview, I'll get rid of the extra A there. You can go ahead and practice doing a job interview with it. You could use it as a personal assistant. Have it help you with some of the tasks that you do on an everyday basis. You can ask it to help you understand a complex topic. How would I do it? Anybody have any ideas? How would I ask it to help me understand a complex topic? Yes.
Ask it to like break it down.
Yes.
Like simplify it so you can understand it better.
So ask it to break it down, to simplify it so you can understand it better.
Yeah.
And then if you needed to ask it from a slightly different direction or for a detail, you could go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
Be more specific, exactly. Has anybody used this with regard to learning a foreign language or translating a foreign language? This is one of the ones that I've found is most cited by people saying, oh, this is wonderful. Excuse me. So you probably have all heard of Duolingo. And so I believe that uses AI now also. What about organizing information? Okay, so how is it going to organize information? How is the computer going to be able to organize information? You're going to have to input it. Now, does this mean you have to type everything? No. So with most of these, you can go ahead, you can have a PDF of something, an image, etc., be able to show it that, input that, and then you can go ahead and get information organized, whether it's a calendar, whether it's, I've got all of these pieces of information, put them in a particular order. Collaborate for group projects. So I'd heard about doing this, but I wasn't certain exactly how a person might do it. So let's take a look. And I put in the prompt, how can ChatGPT be used for students to collaborate on a project? So I went back and I asked it specifically, what would you do? How could you help me? And it says, brainstorming and idea development. I've used it for that personally, but it would be great in a group. Enter initial ideas. You can get prompts, questions, variations on the concept, expand on the concepts. This is kind of what we do as librarians. We have students come to us and say, we have a research project, and these are things that I want to find out. And we'll say, but you know, we want to look at alternate terms. We want to look at broader and narrower terms. We want to help you be able to narrow down your topic. We also want you to be able to find terms that somebody else might have used when they wrote. So this goes right along with that as librarians. You'll see the organizing and planning. And you can create task lists, who's going to be doing what, create schedules, keep track of deadlines, assigning roles, creating timelines. There are all kinds of things that you can do. It is great at making charts, and it's basically project management then. So you've got a lot of different things that you could do. And notice I clicked on continue this conversation, and that meant that it's going to let me go ahead and pick up where I left off. And I might say, how can I set deadlines? And now it's going to give me information, defining project scope, estimating time, using the SMART goals, assigning deadlines to each person. Gives me some other tools that I might be able to use in conjunction with it. So I've got all kinds of information right at my fingertips, and it took much less time for it to tell me all those things for me to be able to get to find out about those tools than it would be for me to actually do a Google search. And that's the beauty of it. Questions so far? Okay, so when you're looking at answers from AI, always check for further questions. Refine what you're looking for, explore different nuances. Always double check the answers that it gives you against reliable sources. There are lots more here. This was sequencing item. It gave you some drawn shapes. What shape comes next? How do I care for my plant? I got a new plant, I killed it. But I did check to find out how I should care for it. How to focus and beat procrastination. Anybody here relate to that? Create a customized study plan. You can start out middle of semester, beginning of semester, whatever. Here's what I have as assignments. Here are the dates. Help me create a study plan for this. Note taking. Whoops, that's note talking. Note taking. We'll fix that one too. Support. Review and reinforce learning. You can ask it to create review questions for you, flashcards, how to prepare for a study session. Ask it. Manage stress. Try some prompts. What are some proven ways to manage stress during final exams? I love this one. Order common coffee drinks from a virtual barista. I don't drink coffee, so this is all like a foreign language to me. Explaining concepts, we talked about that. Creating study aids, flashcards, plan a trip. Has anybody used it to plan a trip? So I took a cruise last month, my first, and so some of the things were already planned for me, but it was really great because I was able to get a whole lot of information. And I talked with somebody else who said that he was able to go directly here and get lots of information. You could ask for restaurants, best restaurants for a certain type of food and a certain price range in a certain city that is within walking distance of your hotel. You can actually, remember we talked about doing inputting of things? You can create a recipe from a photo of what you want to eat. Did you know that? Here's my photo. Accurately identify the baked good in the image and provide an approximate recipe consistent with your analysis. It may not be Toll House recipe, but I'm going to get chocolate chip cookies. I looked at what somebody else had said too, and they had said create a recipe from ingredients that you have on hand. I don't know if you're like me, but sometimes it's figuring out what I'm going to be cooking just is not super easy. So they went ahead and they took a look and got a recipe down here for chicken and sweet potato curry with cashews and basmati rice. And they said it was pretty good, maybe too much cinnamon. So you actually can use it for things like that. There's also a little mini app called a recipe finder that ChatGPT has. Get a list of objects in a photo, show a photo, create a blog post, summarize meeting conversations. We talked about that. Chat with historical figures. My colleague Larry is here. He's a history major. Larry, have you ever tried this Hello History?
Yes, I just recently started, but it's recently came upon it. It's pretty interesting.
Okay, so you've tried Hello History. What did you find about it?
The point is you can like pose questions to historical figures and using the AI uses what they know the historical figure to answer your question.
Okay, so they act like they're the historical figure
Yeah.
and whatever information they have on them and answer your question. Do they do it with different voices or do you see the image of the person?
I don't remember seeing. I use it briefly, so I don't remember seeing the image. I know it uses the tone of the character. So like Lincoln is much different than say George Washington.
Okay, so they are slightly different in their persona then. Did you know you could use this to practice a speech or presentation? It will help you see where maybe you could say, reduce the amount of time that it's taking, things like that. Did you know you could use it to transcribe audio recordings? There's something called otter.ai. Generate practice problems or review questions as study helps. You can copy and paste a section of reading, ask GPT to write review questions. FAU Libraries has databases. I'm going to take you into, I listed through three here. O'Reilly for higher education. And what's really neat is these are databases. This is part of what you pay for as a student, having access to these. Very first thing that came up is an audiobook. I don't know about you, but when I'm a student, and I have been multiple times, I get tired of reading. My eyes say, no, I'm going to fall asleep. So audiobooks sometimes can be really useful. And so here you have an audiobook. What is generative AI? I could go ahead and put in something like prompts, and I'll see that I not only have that audiobook that's available, but I have regular books, including for dummies. I may start with that one. On-demand courses that are available, regular books, videos. So you've got all kinds of things. And the other two databases that I listed here, Sage Campus and LinkedIn Learning, they also have a lot of information for you that's available. The Sage Campus has a course in it. LinkedIn Learning, we know they also have courses. Some people may talk about customizing ChatGPT settings. There's a really good article, I noted it below. She outlines some settings that could be changed. One thing for you to think about is you have to really read carefully to see about the benefits, but also the hazards of using some of these. Some of them will deal with your privacy. And just like so many other things, we don't know what the privacy default settings are. And so we may find that we need to go ahead and look into these because the default setting may already be invading our privacy. Some will deal with what ChatGPT might remember about you when you use it. So if you want it to be your personal assistant. So what's new? We've got Google's AI learning companion called Learnabout. I've got some other resources listed here. I've got the link to my Google Doc and my information. Yes, Larry.
Is it true that if they use the AI, that the links for like ChatGPT and others that are on the FAU web, that AI webpage, they log in and their information is protected?
Yes, if you're using Copilot and go to the one, it will say, look again through the AI tools, and it will tell you the one to use that is going to give you the most protection. This is the Google Doc, and so you'll see things like what are AI and ChatGPT, and you'll see all kinds of different things. Sometimes I have a note here. There's that timeline that I took information from. Is it okay for me to use AI for these tasks in school? Taking you to that academic code. Decision tree. Should I not? Customizing the changing or the settings, creating prompts. That's the biggest part of what you have to learn. Examples of using it in a business workplace. We're hearing more and more about employers are anticipating that you as students are coming out of a university with a degree and the ability to use AI. And so this is in here specifically to be able to give you some ideas about different jobs, types of jobs, and what kinds of prompts or what kinds of tasks might be associated with them. So you've got a lot of things that are available. Even Google Workspace Prompt Guide gives you a whole lot of job types and what you might be asked to do. Again, the FAU resources I mentioned and the 3 databases I mentioned. Google Arts and Culture, if you want something fun to play with. And that generative AI for educators, that 2-hour course that I mentioned. I've got all kinds of different handouts that I've ended up collecting. I will be adding more things here, more links to this Google Doc. So if you want to have some of those, you'll be able to get to them. Any questions? Well, I really appreciate you all being here. And again, my contact information is right there and also on the board.